Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, the subtle hum of everyday life was shattered one warm autumn afternoon. The unassuming suburb, nestled within rolling hills and adorned with trees draped in hues of amber and crimson, became the backdrop for events that would leave an indelible mark on its residents. On that fateful day, as children played in their yards and families prepared for the upcoming harvest festival, tragedy was on the horizon. It began when a mother, alert yet unsuspecting, set off to fetch her 8-year-old daughter, Emily, from a friend's house down the street. Emily, with her sunshine smile and boundless energy, was beloved by neighbors and often the center of laughter. But when the mother arrived, the house was silent. A slight chill crept into the air as she peered through the window, only to find the living room empty, initially filled with a mother's instinctual concern. Her heart raced as minutes turned into an agonizing half-hour. As she called out Emily's name, the echoes of her voice danced eerily among the trees. Panic began to engulf her. She raced back home and threw open the door, her pleas falling on deaf ears. Time crawled by as she dialed the police. Her trembling hands betrayed the calm she tried to maintain. Willow Creek's police chief, a seasoned officer named Henry Stroud, was soon on the scene. His detective intuition sensed the weight of the situation before he even stepped out of his car. This wasn't a mere case of a child lost in play. The atmosphere crackled with something darker, a foreboding that would unravel into a case that extended far beyond a missing child. Detective Stroud felt it deep in his gut. They were racing against time, and the town would never be the same again. The victim. Emily Sanders was not just any child. She was a bright spark in the community, characterized by her infectious laughter and insatiable curiosity. Known for her unruly chestnut curls and vividly colored rain boots, she had a penchant for chasing after adventure, her wide eyes drinking in the world around her. Yet behind her playful exterior lay the vulnerability that came with childhood moments of shyness, fears of dark corners, and dreams of being a hero. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the neighborhood, the townspeople rallied together to search for the missing girl. Posters with Emily's radiant face began to dot street corners and shop windows, an image of hope in desperately uncertain times. Her schoolmates clutched their teddy bears, whispering prayers for their friend. Yet beneath their childhood innocence, uncertainty loomed. Where was Emily? Detective Stroud began piecing together Emily's last known movements. He spoke with her friends, piecing together snippets of conversations and laughter shared on that seemingly ordinary day. We played dress-up. She wanted to be a pirate, one friend recounted, her eyes glistening with tears. Stroud logged their statements into his notepad, every detail vital, no matter how trivial it may seem. But it was Emily's gentle spirit that gnawed at him. Her absence echoed like a ghost through the town, a child-sized void of the community. The detective soon learned from Emily's mother that a week before her disappearance, the girl had found an old, tarnished locket in the attic. From that moment, she would wear it daily, captivated by its mystery. The innocent charm of childhood took a dark turn when Stroud realized that the locket might hold significance beyond mere sentimentality. Emily had discovered a piece of the past, but what secret did it carry? What strange thread would connect her to the growing unease in Willow Creek? As he turned the crinkled piece of paper in his hand, He couldn't shake the feeling that the locket would become a key in unraveling the evening's harrowing event. The crime scene. As twilight settled over Willow Creek, Detective Stroud found himself gravitating toward the last place Emily had been seen, a modest home, adorned with fading white paint and a sun-bleached welcome mat. At the doorstep, every detail seemed magnified beneath the harsh light of police flashlights. The scent of decay mixed with the damp autumn air, igniting questions that loomed heavy. Stroud entered the cluttered living room of the McAllister home, where Emily had spent the afternoon playing with her friend Samantha. Toys were strewn haphazardly about, the remnants of a carefree day now tinged with surreal tragedy. Stroud's sharp eyes scanned the room meticulously, taking in every scene. A half-assembled dollhouse still awaited its finishing touches, untouched and forgotten. The very fabric of childhood innocence had frayed, and it was this very space that felt haunted by loss. As he navigated through the clutter, the detective noticed something amiss. A small door leading to the basement stood ajar, its surface marred by scuff marks. The unnerving stillness of the house enveloped him as he approached, heartbeat echoing in his ears like distant thunder. A cold draft slipped from the basement, sending shivers racing down his spine. The descent into darkness revealed a grim sight. The air felt thicker, closing in around him. Stroud flicked on his flashlight, illuminating the damp stone walls and revealing an array of discarded items: old tires, broken furniture, and an odd assortment of childhood memorabilia. But buried in this disarray, he spotted a small pink hair ribbon clinging to a jagged piece of wood, its vibrant color stark against the drab surroundings. "Emily," he whispered, the name escaping his lips like a prayer. He knew then that this ribbon was not mere accident. It was a clue woven into the fabric of her fate. As he scoured the area, searching for further evidence, the weight of his task pressed heavily upon him. The ripple of uncertainty grew as he understood that the search for Emily was no longer just about locating Harriet, was now a pursuit of the darkness that encircled the heart of Willow Creek, threatening to consume everything in its path. The isolation of the subterranean room mirrored the chilling reality. Someone knew more than they were saying, and time was slipping away like grains of sand. The early investigation. With the basement turned crime scene now under careful surveillance, Detective Stroud called in additional support, redoubling efforts to find Emily. The community was both a resource and a challenge. Willow Creek thrived on closeness, but this very intimacy often bred whispered suspicions. As the sun dipped completely beneath the horizon, he convened his team, surrounding himself with fresh faces and seasoned detectives alike. "Let's canvass the neighborhood," Stroud instructed, his jaw set in determination. "We need to identify any vehicles or people that seemed out of place over the past several days." The urgency of the situation pressed on them like a weight, fracturing the previously serene atmosphere. As they spread out into the twilight, Stroud knelt to gather eyewitness accounts, probing for details that might unlock new avenues. A retired mailman, Mr. Collins, recounted seeing a dark blue van parked near the park 2 days before Emily disappeared. Stroud sensed the flicker of a lead amidst a sea of ambiguity. He documented the vehicle description along with the time and location, his intuition urging him to follow this thread. Meanwhile, other detectives reviewed the scant digital footprint Emily had left. Her mother handed over her tablet, filled with recipes and games, but also mementos of online chats and comments. A popular children's forum revealed Emily's vibrant contributions. "I like unicorns," she had written just the day before her disappearance. As the detective scrolled through her messages, one exchange caught their attention, a series of exchanges with a user named Dream Chaser, who had expressed an unusual level of interest in her locket shortly before her disappearance. Back at the station, Stroud gathered his team under fluorescent lights. The sterile environment, a stark contrast to the warmth of the community they sought to protect. They could be grooming her online. "Time to dig deeper into this dream chaser," he commanded, carving a path forward with urgency. Each moment spent on the details textured the investigation, breathing life into the fragmented timeline. With the stage set, Stroud felt a foreboding resolve, emboldened by a sense of responsibility. He was not only pursuing justice for the lost child, but also standing guard over the remaining innocents of the town. The cohesiveness that once made Willow Creek a sanctuary now teetered on the brink. His goals were clear: uncover the truth and bring Emily safely home, or face the growing shadows that threaten to engulf them all. The dead ends. Days turned into a tense week as the search for Emily Sanders crested, only to crash against a series of frustrating dead ends. Detective Stroud felt the weight of disappointment in every meeting and every briefing. Each new tip, each handwritten note scrawled on evidence boards, seemed to lead them in circles. The community, once bound by hope, was turning brittle under the strain of despair. The dark blue van described by Mr. Collins led to an owner who had been in the area at the time, but was confirmed to be innocent by a solid alibi. "It's a puzzle," Stroud muttered to himself as he sifted through the reports in the dim light of his office. His heart sank further with every failure, each one echoing the hopelessness that seeped into conversations with Emily's mother. She no longer bore the serene facade of a concerned parent. Her eyes were encased in a glassy film that spoke of sleepless nights. As the detectives combed through online forums for signs of Dream Chaser, they encountered a labyrinth of child actors and hobbyists, a cacophony of chatter devoid of any meaningful leads. Even the inquiry into Emily's friends hadn't revealed much, leaving no stone unturned in the search for motive or context. Just as Stroud's resolve began to waver, he met an investigator from another jurisdiction, eager to share insights. Child abductions can emerge from many avenues. Even acquaintances from school can yield unexpected connections, she advised, her tone laced with experience. Her words turned over in Stroud's mind as he pursued fresh interviews with school staff and parents, hoping to unearth long-buried grievances or unchecked behaviors that might contribute to Emily's disappearance. Days passed, and the once vibrant energy of Willow Creek dimmed under a collective grief. The festival that had once promised laughter was now overshadowed by uncertainty, a grim reminder of what was missing. As news vans parked out front of the Sanders home, broadcasting updates with a tense theatricality, Stroud's determination burned within an ember's glow. He knew that every failed lead felt like a weight shackled to his ankles, dragging deeper into despair. Yet he refused to let that darkness extinguish the light of hope. "Insist on the truth," he whispered to himself, as he leaned over the clutter of photographs and maps, understanding that somewhere in the chaos lay the fragments of a story waiting to be uncovered. Time was a relentless tide, but Stroud against the mayhem prepared to dive deeper, for the sake of Emily and the soul of Willow Creek. A break in the case. On a damp Friday morning, when the overcast sky mirrored the collective gloom of the town, Detective Stroud received an unexpected call that fractured the monotony of dead ends. The voice on the other end belonged to an officer from the local sheriff's department, a fresh lead that would reignite the flickering flame of hope in their search for Emily Sanders. "We have a situation," the officer said, his tone edged with urgency. He proceeded to explain that a woman had stumbled upon something troubling while walking her dog near the woods just outside Willow Creek, an area that was typically untouched and tranquil. The woman had spotted a unique locket glistening beneath the blanket of foliage, its intricate design familiar yet haunting. Stroud's heart raced as he recognized the description of the locket Emily had adored, a tangible connection that might lead them back to her. He instructed his team to gather, crossing into the wooded area with renewed vigor. The crisp air seemed charged with anticipation as they hiked into the thicket, each crackling branch echoing the eerie weight of hope and dread. Upon reaching the site, Stroud found the woman who had found the locket, her eyes wide with anxiety. She handed it over carefully, and Stroud felt the metallic coolness against his palm as he examined it closely. The intricate swirls and engravings danced with familiarity, the memory of Emily's joyful face emerging vividly in his mind. "Can you show us exactly where you found this?" he asked, his voice low yet commanding. As they retraced her steps, the brush began to thicken around them. Lingering uncertainty clawed at Stroud, but some instinct compelled him forward. Devices began to scan the area for potential evidence. And though the late morning light streamed down, illuminating the trail with warmth, the haunting undercurrents remained. Moments later, a team member signaled excitement, pointing towards the tree line. "Over here." Stroud rushed toward the source, adrenaline surging within him. What lay beyond the underbrush chilled him to the core. Evidence of a campsite, remnants of a fire pit, scattered belongings, and a frayed backpack. The presence of human activity here was too distinct to dismiss. It pulsed with a significance that felt undeniable. The atmosphere thickened once more as the pieces began to align. But would they point to Emily or something darker lurking beneath the surface? As Stroud cataloged the discovery, he locked eyes with his team, determination rekindling amongst them. This was their break, a chance to shift the tide. From above, thick clouds loomed, as if mirroring the storm within Stroud's mind. The labyrinth held more secrets than he had imagined, and the hunt for answers surged back to life. They were on the right path. But with each step, he remained acutely aware of the urgency. Time was still the enemy, and every second counted in the desperate pursuit for truth and justice for Emily. The suspect. As Detective Stroud returned to the sheriff's department, the air thrummed with renewed energy and purpose. The discovery of the campsite fueled a newfound determination within the team, and as the sun broke through the clouds, it cast an elongated shadow over what was to unfold. With the locket and remnants of the campsite in hand, they had a foundation to start building upon. Stroud felt a subtle charge in the atmosphere. He was certain they were close. Inside the station, the detectives banded together around a table cluttered with photographs and evidence. Among them was a man named Kyle Patterson, a transient with a rumored history of odd behavior, particularly near the community park where Emily played. Kyle had frequently been a topic of conversation in their earlier interviews. Reports of his uninvited presence and uneasy demeanor were discussed with concerned whispers. His loud laughter echoed through the park, a dissonant sound that felt at odds with the innocence surrounding it. Using their search background checks, the team discovered unsettling details. Kyle had a history of harassment charges, his previous encounters involving children. As Stroud studied his photograph, the unease creeping into his stomach morphed into a gnawing suspicion. This was a man who had not only housed darkness in his soul, but one who also had been nearby when Emily had disappeared. With urgency mounting, Stroud allocated a team to locate and interview Kyle. It didn't take long, as he was known to frequent a small coffee shop at the outskirts of town. The detective shadowed him as he sipped from a chipped mug, his careless laughter ringing out. Once they approached him, the joviality evaporated, leaving a rigid atmosphere in its wake. "Mind if we ask you a few questions, Kyle?" one of the officers ventured. His tone shifted from casual to serious as he gestured to the nearby booth. Kyle's nervous glance darted across the cafe, his demeanor quickly betraying a flicker of fear. As they began their interrogation, Stroud observed. Kyle was evasive, his eyes flitting to the exits, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool interior. "Why would I know anything about a missing girl?" he replied, defensively crossing his arms. But it was the subtle twitch of his lips and the way he unraveled under scrutiny that rattled Stroud. He could sense it, the truth teetered on the edge, begging to break free. The detectives pressed on, recounting the details of Emily's probable route and his past behavior, and Kyle's composure began to crack. "I just like to be in the park for the peace, you know," he offered, but his voice lacked sincerity. Each word dripped with pressure and indecision. As the interrogation progressed, the officers gathered splintered pieces of his story, something that didn't quite fit within the timeline. It was clear he was hiding something. With every evasive answer, Stroud felt the grip tightening around Kyle's truth. By the time they exited the cafe, Stroud understood they had merely scratched the surface. They needed to dig deeper: witnesses, alibis, old contacts. The threads were taut, and he could sense a decision looming in the air. "Follow it. We need to know more," Stroud instructed, urgency simmering just below the surface. The name was becoming synonymous with dread, yet it felt like the descent into the darkness had only just begun. The question remained: could they unveil the tumult of secrets before they faded back into the shadows? The trial. Months had passed since Emily's disappearance, but the heavy atmosphere enveloping Willow Creek had not dissipated. The town wore a shroud of anguish and uncertainty, every smile weighed down by the echo of what had been lost. As the trial of Kyle Patterson commenced, the community held its breath, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Inside the stark courthouse, the tension was palpable as family, friends, and curious onlookers filed into the courtroom. Stroud perched strategically in the back, his eyes sharp, scanning the faces that lined the pews. Emily's mother, seated in the front row, was a portrait of resilience marred by sorrow. She clutched a delicate tissue in her hand, yet even the gentle waves of her grief radiated a fierce determination. The prosecution wasted no time in laying out their case against Kyle. They presented an intricate weave of evidence that linked him to the locket found in the woods, paired with witness testimonies from residents who had seen his erratic behavior around the park leading up to Emily's disappearance. Stroud sat rigidly, reminiscences of the investigation flooding back with each presentation of evidence. He recalled those haunting faces, the whispers of community fear, how quickly joy had morphed into shattered hope. Kyle, pale and gaunt, shifted nervously in the defendant's chair. His lawyer, working diligently to cast doubt upon the prosecution's narrative, wasted no time in introducing alternative theories of Emily's fate strangers. transient passersby, or even wild animals in the surrounding woods. As the defense's insistent shadows crept across the courtroom, anxiety surged through the ranks. Would the truth slip away once more, like sand through an unfettered hand? Over the course of the proceedings, a series of witnesses presented their testimonies, some breaking down under emotional duress while recounting lighter moments of Emily's joy. Each pause filled the air with an ache that felt almost unbearable. Each jury member's face hardening with resolve. Stroud observed the jury closely. He could see the conflict in their expressions, the struggle between evidence and emotion wrapping around them like a storm. As the trial reached its climax, the moments stretched long. The jury would have their final chats, and every glance exchanged carried the momentum of the past few months. The fear, the desperation, the hope wavering on a thin precipice. In the end, the verdict fell like a thunderclap within the solemn silence. Guilty. The word echoed, sending shockwaves through the courtroom and igniting a mixed wave of relief and lifelong sorrow. Justice for Emily came, but it bore the weight of realization that the scars would forever mark the community. As Stroud stepped outside, a light drizzle began to fall, as if the heavens themselves shared in their grief, yet lifted ever so slightly, allowing a sliver of hope to break through the clouds. The investigation had been brutal, yet it shed light on the darkness that never should have been. Willow Creek would heal in time, he knew, mending the scars in their hearts while ensuring that no child would be forgotten again. Through investigation and trial, it was not just a story of a missing girl found, but a story of a community uniting against the shadows determined to reclaim their light. The aftermath. The trial had ended, but the reverberations of Emily Sanders' disappearance continued to ripple through Willow Creek long after the gavel had struck. The town was forever altered an unshakable shadow, now colored the apple pie innocence that once permeated its streets, carving lines in the hearts of all who called it home. In the weeks that followed the verdict, residents gathered in amounts they hadn't before, sharing stories in the twilight. They created a makeshift memorial in the park where Emily used to play. Colorful drawings crafted by her friends adorned a corkboard, interspersed with photographs of the vibrant girl whose laughter had once danced through the air. A solitary locket, similar to the one found in the woods, hung at the center, representing not just loss, but a connection that transcended the tragedy. Detective Stroud frequently wandered through the park, finding comfort in the weathered benches that embraced those stories of resilience and strength. Conversations shifted atop those very planks, rivers of grief merging with hope as community members vowed to look after one another, pledging vigilance in the face of darkness that had once claimed Emily. Stroud's work continued, though now it carried the weight of lessons learned. He initiated community safety meetings, empowering parents with resources to navigate the ever-present dangers lurking in plain sight. The echoes of Emily's name served as both a reminder and a rallying cry, a wake-up call embedded within every heart. Emily's mother, though still cloaked in sorrow, became an advocate for missing children, channeling her grief into action. She spoke at local schools, sharing her daughter's story with an unwavering strength, reminding children about safety and the importance of speaking out. Each word was knitted with love, intertwining the threads of loss with passion that ignited hope in countless others. As the leaves began to turn again, mapping the changing seasons, a profound stillness settled over Willow. The festival that had once been overshadowed was held in Emily's honor, a celebration of life made sacred by her memory. Balloons floated into the sky, carrying with them a message that echoed through the hearts of all. We will remember. Stroud looked on amid the laughter of play children, who could now roam with a sense of security that he had worked to cultivate. The echoes of joyous laughter filtered through the park, a bittersweet balm for the raw wounds still healed. Yet beneath this facade, he understood the journey was not over. Places of darkness would still exist. New challenges would arise, and the shadows would whisper their secrets to those willing to listen. Stroud's resolve solidified, to always remember, to seek the truth, and to ensure that every child walks home safely. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with fire and gold, a familiar breeze rustled through Willow Creek. In that moment, surrounded by community and a shared spirit, the integral truth stitched itself into the tapestry of their lives' love would always rise amid loss, creating a resilience that burned brighter than even the darkest shadows. Reflection. In the months following the trial, Willow Creek endured a cycle of healing that was as necessary as it was profound. Detective Stroud often found himself lost in thought, reflecting on the haunting specters that lingered long after the gavel had fallen. To some, justice meant closure. For others, it meant continuing to carry the weight of loss as a part of their very being. As he walked through the now familiar park, the laughter of children rang out, less a reminder of what had been lost and more a promise of what could come. In the hanging branches of the trees, he could almost hear the echoes of Emily's laughter, intertwining with the renewed spirit of the community. Each new season breathed fresh life into the town, tending to wounds that time could only partially heal. Stroud met with other detectives over coffee, their conversations flavored with both reminiscence and resolve. They spoke of the case and the hours spent combing through evidence, the tension of the trial still palpable as they relived each decision they made. They understood that every investigation carried a lesson on that went beyond procedural protocol. It was about humanity, about being there for the families left grappling with the unknown, and ensuring each child is honored. Sitting on a bench, Stroud watched as a mother pushed her daughter on a swing, laughter punctuating the serene background of rustling leaves. He could feel the reassuring pulse of compassion and tenacity that surged through Willow Creek. They would carry Emily forward in their hearts, not merely as a reminder of tragedy, but as a symbol for unity, vigilance, and the enduring light that could break through even the darkest of nights. Justice had been served, but the real work began anew. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, Stroud felt a spark of hope ignite within him, forever intertwined with the shared mission to safeguard all that was innocent and cherished.